Why don't we begin?
All set. Good afternoon, and thank you again for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the North Central Bean Dealers Association and the North Harvest Bean Growers Association. Our entities represent 2,400 growers and 51 dry bean processing facilities in North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, and Wisconsin. For further reference, of the 1.3 million acres of dry beans grown in the U.S., this region accounts for approximately 45% of that total. And of that 45%, about half of that is grown within 150 miles of this room. Dry edible beans are a perishable, non-hedgeable specialty crop that relies heavily on efficient single-car rail service. Approximately 60% of our production is shipped by hopper and boxcar year in and year out. Rail service issues have had an immediate and negative impact on our business over the past year. There are numerous cases of contract cancellations, conversions to other means of transportation, export vessels missed, etc., and there's many other instances as you've heard today. Losing a customer altogether because we cannot deliver our product in a timely manner is the worst case scenario for everyone in the supply chain. If your customers are not able to access your product, it does not take long for them to find other alternatives. When I last spoke before the board back in April, rail service was at a low point for our industry. Late orders of greater than 60 days were common, and some were approaching over 100 days. I testified in April we were pleased with the communication that we'd received from BNSF, and we were hopeful that the plans that they put forth to address the ongoing issues were successful. At this point, we have continued to receive good communication from BNSF, and they have followed through on their commitments they have made. It appears that most of the past due have been caught up in our industry, and we remain cautiously optimistic that we will continue to see much more reliable service moving forward. If we do not, we plan on asking you to come back here in January for further discussions, and I don't think you want to do that. The CP rail has been slower to respond to our membership. Of particular concern is what at least appears to be preferential treatment of one growing region over another. You have heard many instances of car orders greater than 120 days late in North Dakota. We have seen car orders in Manitoba, Canada that have averaged 21 days late. We have no idea what the reasons are for this difference, but clearly this spread puts a North Dakota processor at a serious competitive disadvantage. To be fair, we have seen improvement in both communication and service from the CP in the past few weeks, and we do believe that CP has heard our concerns. However, other than canceling all past due orders and reordering under a new system, the plan moving forward appears unclear to us at best. Simply hoping for a warmer winter is in no way a serious plan. We do sincerely hope for a clear and measurable method to restore service in the very near future. We hope we see that plan sooner rather than later. Dry edible beans provide a low-cost, nutritional protein source for consumers worldwide. We do understand that we are a small fish in a very, very big pond, but dry beans are important to our local farm and regional economies. It is also important to note that, however, that we are not the world's least cost producer, not by any means. We have relied on an efficient, single-car rail system is crucial to maintaining, much less growing, this important industry. Again, we thank you for coming to our region and hearing our concerns, and look forward to better days ahead.
Chairman Elliott, Vice Chairman Miller, Commissioner Begeman. My name is Brian Shanlack, and I'm a fifth-generation farmer from North Dakota. I've had the opportunity to speak before you before in April, and I represent the North Harvest Bean Growers Association, North Central Bean Dealers Association, and the United States Dry Bean Council. The crisis for the Midwest farmer continues, especially for their North Dakota, Minnesota farms. We have harvest starting, and the logistics of taking these agricultural products to market is at a bottleneck. We have growers in our communities that have corn and wheat contracts for March 2014 delivery that is still sitting in their bins. Yes, product that is 5 months behind in shipping due to lack of rail service. There are many growers who farm store product has gone out of condition. This product has gone from #1 grade to substandard grade because of late or no rail shipment. As you've heard many times today, the increased basis is costing the growers in North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota hundreds of millions of dollars due to the rail service or lack of. We have issues of food safety, food security, and the economic backbone of our country, agricultural exports. We, the farmers, are demanding to have more resources given to agriculture. In 2013, approximately 20+% of the North Dakota land remained idle due to too wet conditions. What are we going to do in 2014 with more normal production? Being a fifth-generation farmer, these are some of the biggest challenges ever presented to our farm. Shippers of ag products in North Dakota are exceedingly far behind, as you heard many times today also. In doing an informal survey with some North Dakota CP rail shippers of agricultural products, August 21st and 22nd, I encountered this data. Shipper A had cars ordered and delivery contracts ordered for March 12th unfulfilled. Shipper B had cars ordered and delivery contracts for March 17th unfulfilled. Shipper C had cars ordered and delivery contracts for March 17th, March 18th, March 19th, and March 20th unfulfilled. That information is a little over a week old. The list is very long with the same scenario. My survey had many, many shippers having product on the CP rail 4 and 5 months behind. Our survey concluded that there was also so much legitimate tonnage that was canceled of demand, it was astounding. There are so many orders that are 5 months old for grower delivery and elevator shipments. The consequences of these logistical predicaments is ridiculous. This week, I talked to 4 different cooperatives, and they told me their legitimate demand on just 4 cooperatives on the CP rail was 6,000 cars behind alone, just 4 companies in North Dakota. This is just an array of what is going on in our industry. What are we as growers and shippers going to do with our 2013 crop, which many is 5 months behind in shipping, and a new crop coming around the corner that is average to above average? Having shipped on both the CP and the BN from a BN facility, I've encountered this. I would like to thank the BNSF for their transparency, their communication, and their efforts to fix this logistical mess. I am cautiously optimistic going forward with the BNSF. They have made great efforts. We need the CP to close the 5-month gap of late shipments, as well as transparency, communication, and service. The same thing you've heard many times today also. The downsizing of leased cars in the post-2012 era is not working for the CP. Moving less cars faster is not working in the efficiencies of our railroad. Canceling legitimate orders and reordering is not fixing the problem either. I have these questions for the CP rail. What is their hopper car fleet size? How many hopper cars are operating in the U.S. fleet? A few weeks ago, we're told in Minot that they have one fleet. Today, we're told they have 2 fleets. So we would like a definition of that. How many empty hopper cars are delivered weekly in the U.S. market? We're asking for a plan. What are their solutions to the short, intermediate, long term for these problems? Are they spending enough capital? Do we need an emergency service mandate from the STB? Those are pretty strong words, is yes, do we need an emergency service mandate? I hope enough improvement is reality to not warrant this. The thousands of growers, shippers, processors, and industry advocates I represent are not going to stand idle for these problems. I know we have experienced increased commerce, larger crops, more economic activity, and weather challenges in the last year. I hope we can find a balance within the railroad industry to pacify the needs of agriculture. Thank you for your time.
Hi. Hello, my name is Roger Zedeca. I'm a farmer from Sturm, North Dakota, southeastern part of the state. I raise wheat, soybeans, sunflowers, corn, and have a small cow-calf operation. I am currently the Sargent County Farmers Union President, which is a chapter of North Dakota Farmers Union, NDFU, an organization of 40,000 family farmers and ranchers from across the state. Back in January, I was seeing a difference in my local elevator. There was a lack of capacity, and I was unable to haul in grain. I asked the elevator manager what the problem was. They said they were unable to get cars they had ordered. In my area, the longest wait for cars was 20 days. In southwestern North Dakota, NDFU heard reports of cars being up to 20 days late. In northwestern North Dakota, it was reported to NDFU staff that the cars were up to 60 days late. On top of that, there was a dramatic surge in the secondary market that was increasingly burdensome to elevators. The secondary market hit a high for the year at $5,875. The average bid was $2,071 per car in March, and is slated to hit $5,500 per car in October, average bid $3,900. Perhaps the most debilitating piece of railroad availability issues in North Dakota is a widening basis, the difference between the futures price at the elevator, which the manager sells the grain, and cash price, which he pays the farmer. The basis generally covers handling and transportation costs. I'm not going to elaborate on the prices. You've already heard many comments about that. Senator Heitkamp asked North Dakota State University to look into the cost of the lack of rail service to farmers here. According to the study, North Dakota farmers have lost $66 million due to agriculture shipment delays from January to April. The study also found that if conditions didn't improve, farmers could stand to lose an additional $95 million in income. And I have to say, I think that's even gotten worse because of some of the stuff that's been going on with delays. The lack of rail service has been a tremendous effect on my operation. As has been stated prior, just because of the additional cost of shipping, I've lost quite a few $1,000s. As a result of the price of grain and the widening basis, I get less per bushel. I'm a captive shipper. As a captive shipper, it seems odd to me that the railroad can make profits while not delivering on their commitment to provide cars. It also seems concerning that elevators fear retaliation if they speak up about being treated unfairly. Monopoly hasn't really been brought up much today, but doggone it, it sure looks like a monopoly to me. And I've heard a lot of comments already. I've never been in one of these hearings before, and I want to first of all compliment Mr. Elliott, Ms. Miller, and Ms. Begman for your openness. You're asking questions. I mean, like I said, I've never been in one of these before, and it's just refreshing as heck to see that you guys aren't just sitting there going, yada, yada, yada. You're actually asking serious questions. You're taking notes. I'm impressed, and I thank you for that, because I've had some opinions about government entities before, and I have to say I've been impressed, and I thank you for that sincerely. Getting back to my comments, I urge you to look at the oil traffic in this state and determine whether agriculture is being treated equally. I urge you to look at the car speeds and determine if trains are hauling at adequate speeds. I further urge you to hold railroads accountable for their handling of last year's harvest and this year's harvest. The 2014 harvest is a ticking time bomb, and the fuse is about to be lit. I want to again thank you to the members of the Surface Transportation Board for coming to North Dakota, hearing our concerns. We are a state filled with possibilities, with agriculture and oil development as the largest economic drivers. Our state will continue to flourish, but the state can only flourish if both are allowed to coexist. And that can only happen if agriculture is treated equally on the rails. Like I said, I've never done this before. I'm a farmer, like a lot of people are here. I'm not big on talking around or beating around the bush. I've been in contact with the elevator manager, and this is going to sound pretty harsh, but it's what I've been told. One of the comments I hear over and over again about the CSF is you order a unit train, 110 cars. When it shows up, you better show up with a real good welder, a real good cutting torch, and a big hammer. And of that, you'll probably get 90% of those cars ready to go. I heard earlier today about this increased fleet. My question is are they just reshuffling the old fleet? If you order 110 cars and only get 90% of them to work, you're not getting your full capacity. That's not acceptable. I don't care who you are. Another thing that's concerning is, and I said this in my original testimony, is since when is telling the truth something to be held accountable for, in the fact that you can be retaliated against because you're having problems with the railroad? If you've got a problem, why can't you speak up about it and have it taken care of? Every one of the elevator managers I talk to says, yeah, you can use my information, but don't say where you got it from. I'm going, what the world's going on here? Since when do we have to be held hostage for stuff like that? That's totally out of line. But yet, it's happening. And another thing that affects me directly, or I'm concerned about, is I heard that the Canadian government is saying that the CSF has to put more emphasis on moving Canadian grain. Does that mean they're going to take rail cars from the U.S. and put them up there? I may be sounding pretty harsh, but I think we have to speak up to the issues here, and I'm just really frustrated. The other thing that bothers me is I remember back when Senator Hoeven was our governor of this state, and Governor Brian Swarding of Montana threatened to start a lawsuit against the railroads back then. When it almost came to fruition, all of a sudden the railroads kind of said, oh, geez, we better get our ducks in a row here, and things kind of got better. Now, I also appreciate the fact that we have the Bakken issue. Yes, that's taken a lot of oil, traffic, as far as shipping cars and stuff. One of the best analogies I've heard was the example of it's rush hour all the time on the railroad now, not just 9 to 5. I can appreciate that. But this Bakken just didn't happen yesterday. Yes, it takes time and money, but golly sakes, what is it? Why do we always have to be on the hind end of things here? We're probably the only business I'm aware of that we buy retail and sell wholesale. I mean, there's something wrong with this whole picture, but the thing is that's life in farming. I can accept that. But I can't accept being treated like a second-class person out here in the fact that, well, we got this excuse, we get that excuse. I can understand legitimate reasons, but this is stuff that's been going on, and it keeps coming back to this one phrase, monopoly. They're so big, a lot of these railroads have merged. In my neck of the woods, we've got old abandoned railroad tracks that nothing's left but just, you can kind of look down the road or look down the field and see what used to be an abandoned railroad, or used to be a railroad. I got one town at one time had 4 railroads coming into it. Now it's down to 2. And a lot of them, there's another thing that's not been talked about is some of these short lines, the track isn't heavy enough to handle much for traffic. And I'm questioning if that's ever going to get changed. There's a plant at Spiritwood up by Jamestown that's going to be producing ethanol. Eventually going to have an anhydrous plant there and stuff like that. Some of the local elevators are concerned about if they can ship that direction. There's a short line, what do we call it? I think it's a short line, if I'm using the term right. But anyway, it's not the heavy track. Yes, it's going to cost money, but in the big picture, I think that would really solve some of the logistical problems. Abandoning stuff all the time doesn't necessarily, to me, make sense. Yeah, I can understand efficiency, but I think we've gotten past efficiency to the point where we've heard before, they're short of staff as far as the people do the work. I think that's all got to be addressed. And again, I cannot thank you folks enough for your time and your efforts here. I'm very impressed with that, and I thank you.
Chairman Elliott, Vice Chairman Miller, Commissioner Begeman. I'm Kevin Skunis. On behalf of the North Dakota Corn Growers Association, let me thank you for this opportunity to testify on an important issue so important to us. The North Dakota Corn Growers Association is a 1,300-member organization whose mission is growing a healthy, profitable business climate for northern corn. As part of this mission, we engage in public policy participation, such as important events like here today. We understand both the frustrations and opportunities in the transportation of our product, and we wish to offer examples of how this is affecting us. A bit of personal background. I own and operate a 5,000-acre farm in Cass County, North Dakota. I'm also a board member of National Corn Growers Association. I'm a fourth-generation farmer, and like many other members of the North Dakota Corn Growers Association, I grow a variety of crops, including soybeans, wheat, edible beans, and of course, corn. As such, my livelihood, along with thousands of others like me, depend on safe, reliable, cost-effective delivery of products to the markets demanding them. This is not a new situation, but sadly, it is one that currently has become a crisis. The lack of rail cars and the inability to rectify this emergency by the shippers is harming our country and our world. In 2013, North Dakota growers produced 396 million bushels of corn. This is a huge number. Today, another huge number looms over us, 10%. That is approximately how much of our product is behind the historical average in movement. To look at it as another way, it equates to somewhere in the area of 10,000 rail cars off of where we normally are, and that's just for corn. While we understand that not all corn is shipped by rail, and that market conditions and other variables can also play a factor, the clear reason for this disturbance in the usual trend is because of the inability of shippers to get rail cars. This means for every bushel of corn that could be feeding or fueling our nation, a huge amount of it is just stuck someplace. It's in an elevator, shoved in a bin on a farm, or even worse, rotting on the ground. Countless hours of labor have gone into producing this modern wonder of both nutrition and energy, and yet it sits wasting away. This has not gone unnoticed by our elected officials. Because of the outpouring of concern by the people in the ag industry, Senator Heidi Heidkamp of North Dakota requested that the Department of Agribusiness and Applied Economics at North Dakota State University look at the rail transportation problems in North Dakota. The department used an analysis to measure changes in the local cash market basis levels. The nearby basis, which has been explained, is a difference between the cash local price for immediate grain delivery and the price for the corresponding futures contract, which is closest to today's date. This was used for the study. The results of the study showed were startling, and I should note at this point that the study was limited to corn, soybeans, and wheat, and does not include the other crops grown in the area. And as Roger said earlier, the study showed that approximately $66.6 million was lost in North Dakota farm level revenue for crops that were sold from January through April of 2014. And the researchers further noted that there is a potential for the additional $95.4 million in lost farm revenue from the sale of on-farm grain stocks if the crop basis levels remain at current levels. They also indicated that these amounts are conservative estimates. Because their analysis was limited to spring wheat, corn, and soybeans, and didn't include any potential losses for the sale of durum wheat, barley, sunflowers, canola, field peas, lentils, dry edible beans, flax, oats, or food-grade soybeans. Imagine just for a moment the actual dollar amounts being lost when all of these crops are added together. Those true numbers are shocking and saddening. Let me also add, it isn't just those of us that are ag producers that are feeling the pinch. In a recent New York Times article, food companies said they are also showing the effects of the delayed shipments due to the rail problems. General Mills, based in our neighboring state of Minnesota, told investors earlier this year they'd lost 62 days of production in the quarter that ended in February of this year because of logistics problems, including rail car congestion. Cargill, Another Minnesota-based food giant reported a drop in earnings that it attributed in part to higher costs related to railroad shortages. Members of the Surface Transportation Board, as the NDSU Transportation Study notes, North Dakota agriculture is heavily dependent upon an efficient and timely logistics and transportation system. A reliable railroad infrastructure is a key element within that system. Our state's agriculture is more dependent upon rail transportation than many other states. This is because a large portion of our production is shipped to processors and end users outside of North Dakota, and there is a limited alternative for high-volume bulk shipments. Today, real income is being lost by real families. This is alarming when you consider that our national economy is still recovering from its rough times. The 2014 corn crop will soon be harvested, but much of the 2013 crop is still sitting in storage. There is a looming threat that this year's crop may go to waste unless this railroad issue is fixed soon. While those of us who produce crops worry about the quality of our product deteriorating over time, we realize the railroad doesn't have this problem. They get paid the same amount to haul our crops, whether they are top quality or just barely usable. Because time equals financial loss for us as egg producers, I ask that you take action now. Please use your authority on behalf of the many women and men whose economic stability will be determined by whether or not the fruits of our labor can be converted to usable products. We can do so much better, and with your assistance, we will continue to move ahead. I would be remiss if I were to conclude my testimony without offering at least one step towards a solution. We've heard the railroads say they are working to correct delays, and I truly hope that is the case. Part of the reason why is because they have been required to submit to the Surface Transportation Board their statistics for the numbers of cars they are behind in shipping agricultural commodities. Let me suggest this. It would be a positive step, I believe, if the STB would also ask the shippers to provide similar figures for oil tanker cars by disclosing weekly train sets, the number of rail cars and locomotives dedicated to oil, and which direction the petroleum is being transported. You will have a baseline to compare whether each product, agricultural or petroleum, is being treated equally, as the railroads say they are. From there, you could use your best judgment on any actions needed to eliminate the need for future meetings like this one. Once again, thank you for your willingness to listen. I would be happy to answer any questions you may have today or in the future as you work on our behalf to rectify this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple questions. Mr. Scoons, just for my own information, you referred to a historical average and noted that it was 10% behind what's usually moved. What amount of years are used in that historical average? Do you know?
No, I'm not really sure. We just, according to the Grain Growers Association, that was the number that they came up with.
Okay, I was just curious because I've heard it used. CP's mentioned that it's ahead of what it's been doing the last 3 years, but it would be interesting to see where they stood with respect to a larger time period. So I was just curious about that. Also, Mr. Zatoka? Zedeca, close. Yes, I don't have a question. I just wanted to reiterate, I think, what I've said in prior hearings and also in meetings with shippers almost universally that reference any type of retaliation. That's something we will not stand for.
Thank you.
We hope it doesn't occur, but if you do have a situation where it does occur, please let us know. It's something that we take very seriously.
Thank you. I'd want to add one more thing. I do appreciate what the railroads are trying to do, but the handout I passed out for you guys is actually it's from Ag Week on July 13 of this year and July 13 of last year. And what's interesting is it has to do with the guaranteed pool freight. This happens to be from BN. But prior to all this stuff going south on us last fall, during the summer months when traffic was slow, the railroad was actually paying the elevators to fill the cars up so that they could keep the traffic going. And then last fall, everything took off, and now it's the other way around. The secondary market's just gotten haywire. So up until this last year, or less than a year, because it didn't really start till this last September, I guess it is a year already, things were kind of moving along pretty good. So I just wanted to give you that information.
Thank you. And one last question. You referred to Mr. I'm going to screw this up again.
Shanlack.
Shanlack. You referred to 4 elevators, I believe, that mentioned that they have up to, I guess, approximately 6,000 cars backlog, grain cars. Did I hear that right?
Yes, that's correct. In fact, they're colleagues and friends, and they reached out to me knowing I was going to testify today. And they said, you know, they belong to the grain growers group, but they said, can you just please express our situation? So there's 4 cooperatives, and those are non-ADM CHS cooperatives, and they said their demand of legitimate orders on the CP rail, their demand and their need for cars is 6,000 cars behind. And I'm not getting into whether they cancel orders, not cancel orders, all that other stuff. I'm just saying that is their demand that they told me this week that they have.
Okay.
That's from information from this week from 4 shippers that claim they are 6,000 hopper cars behind, and some of those orders going back quite a ways, like I said, in 4 or 5 months.
Gotcha. All right. No, thank you. That's very helpful. Deb?
So along that same line, you know, the questions come up again about the new ordering system and whether or not, you know, sort of how all of that played out. Do those of you who've referenced and seem familiar with the CP grain hauling, do you know, did shippers feel like they knew what was going on? They knew when the transition was going to be to the new system? They understood how it was going to work? Had they been consulted?
Well, I feel that's a pretty broad question, and probably every shipper might answer that somewhat different. You know, whether there's coercion or not, I couldn't answer that because I know my situation as a CP rail is how it was handled. I don't know if it was presented where, you know, please get on board with the new system because the old system's not working or what, but I mean, I think you'd have to answer, I probably couldn't answer that to represent the whole industry.
But what was your own experience?
My own experience is we did cancel cars and put in new orders, and we will see tomorrow on their computer whether we're granted those new orders.
Thank
You mean
you.
whether they're going to be fulfilled or?
Correct. Are we going to have cars allocated to us and for what time? Okay, because in fact, some of the orders we canceled were for cars as early as February, or latest February 17th. When
you reordered, did you reorder as many cars as you canceled?
No, we ordered less. We ordered less, and like I said, we want to get on board with them and be part of their program and be a player with them, and that was their request, and we followed their request. We canceled cars and we reordered, and I was given quite a few guarantees that we should have information of some very expedient deliveries of cars here and our website tomorrow on our account, and when then they'll arrive. So I guess the judge and jury is out for the new system, and we'll find out more tomorrow.
I'm not going to script your names, John and Brian. I feel like I know you after the April hearing. But John, actually, I was stunned by your positive testimony compared to where you were about 4 or 5 months ago. I mean, I know it wasn't all rosy, but you said, I mean, at least things are in a much better situation than when we visited last. And I believe you were mostly referring to service from BNSF, is that correct?
That's
And
correct.
and I think you said it's gotten a bit better with CP in the last week or so.
I think that's true. Yeah, that's a fair statement.
They knew you were coming here today?
I think so, yeah. I would assume so.
All right, well, we'll be having that hearing in January, so.
I'll look forward to,
So-
I'll look forward to seeing you
Keep up
someplace
good-
else.
Keep up good service.
Thank you.
And Brian, can you, and I don't want to put you in a situation that you don't want to be in, but I can't help myself.
I'm married, so I'm used to that.
Could you give us a sense of, and you don't have to have the exact number if you don't want to, but maybe just percentage, kind of based on, following on Deb's question, how many did you cancel and not reorder? I mean, did you have a need for 6,000 before and you ordered 500?
Well,
Just to get a sense of.
first and foremost, edible beans is a very, very capital-intensive, low-volume type product, so we're single-car shippers. But yes, we canceled quite a few different cars, and the reason
I'm sorry.
Okay, and reordered, and the reason we canceled a lot of them, because we had to take our product to BN facilities to ship them to meet our contractual needs. So our markets and our needs did not change, but our means of getting it to the market had to change, and that was taking our product to a BN facility, and the BN facility went over backwards to help us out, and that's why my compliments to them for their transparency, communication. So because of their willingness to help us out and shipping from a BN facility, that's why our demand for CP cars dropped, okay? So we did cancel, and we did reorder, and we probably reordered for, 20% of what we had on the books. But the reason our number dropped so dramatically is for all our efforts of hauling our product in a very expensive means to BN facilities to get our product to market, that demand that is always there.
So then with, and maybe Mr. Brooks can give some clarity when he appears on the next panel, but so as you understand how the new system will work, you will log on to your website tomorrow or their website, and you'll know what your expectations should be? I mean, will you have service next week, or when, at what point in time?
That's a good question. I think the way it was explained to me, their new ordering system is you can order what you have the means to fill for the next month, what your capacity availability is. So if you can do 1 unit train a week, you're allowed to order a month's worth of product or equipment would be 4 unit trains. If you got 5 cars a week, you can order 20 cars for the next month. So the way it was explained to me is that, or at least for a single car shipper, that was our means of ordering, is whatever our capacity, our maximum capacity could be for the next month. Did I explain that the way?
I think, yes.
Yeah, and whether that happens, I mean, they have a Tuesday deadline for this, and then by that Friday, they tell you when you're going to get your cars and different things like that. So like I said, we're just in the judge and jury stage of seeing their program being implemented, and I believe my most recent request, we canceled on the 18th, I can't remember the exact date, or 14th of August, and we reordered the 21st. So the 21st had to roll into the next Tuesday's request, and then we're supposed to know tomorrow how our requests, our ordering from the 21st is going to be played out.
And do you know, and Mr. Brooks, maybe you can help me as well, but is this part of the shuttle prong, or this is the single service prong?
We're the single service.
Okay.
Okay.
And I don't want to butcher your name either, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk with us today. But we talked a bit about retaliation, but what do they mean? What are they going to do to them? Well, and I realize you're not the elevator.
No, I'm a farmer that supports these elevators, but the general gist I got was, okay, if you're getting a crunch for needing more cars, well, you might be the last dog on a totem pole to even be thought about, that kind of stuff. I mean, they're not going to come in and burn down the elevator, but...
Well, that's good.
Yeah. But anyway, that's the
We've
gist of
succeeded
it.
here
Was
today.
They were concerned about, needing cars at an important time, and hey, screw you. You stepped on us, we're going to step harder on you. That's kind of the mentality they're receiving. And again, but it frustrates the heck out of me because, you can't speak up because of afraid of retaliation. I mean, how haywire is that?
And I do think based on our experience with our staff who's been able to help individual or a group of shippers with the individual railroads, I certainly haven't heard of any negative blowback that they've received as a result.
Good.
And so I thank the carriers for that. And
I do too, if that's, but again, why is this even an issue? I mean,
exactly.
everyone I talked to had the same thing. Yeah, use my information, but don't tell them where you got it from. That's not right.